It's your Wednesday daily delivery. I am Michael Rand. Glad to be back for another day and hope everyone's having a great day out there as well. Really good show coming up. Intern Cassidy Hettesheimer joins me here in just a few minutes to talk about her experiences so far this summer, all the stuff she's gotten to cover, and particularly the Olympics. She kind of talks about the Olympic trials and gymnastics that she helped cover a few weeks back, but also the Olympics that are ongoing right now in Paris and everything she's excited about. Lots of great storylines there, and just a good chance to get to know her a little bit better, so hope you enjoy that conversation here in just a few minutes. Got a Vikings thought at the end of the show about their depth chart, something kind of amusing to me, I guess, more than anything else, but we'll get to that at the end of the show. Interesting thing, the Twins are kind of floating out there. I'll get to that here in just a minute. First, though, what did I miss? Some goings-on in the AL Central race on Tuesday. 3 key developments. Number one, Twins lose to the Cubs. Their 5-game winning streak is over. The bummer there for the Twins is they had their number one pitcher going, or at least the guy who was at the start of the year their number one pitcher, and the guy who figures you would think they would want to start game one of a playoff series if they are fortunate enough to get back to the postseason. Pablo Lopez, he'd been really good since the All-Star break after having a rough go of it pre-break. Before Tuesday, his 3 starts after the All-Star break, he'd gone 20 innings combined, given up just 5 earned runs, 21 strikeouts. He'd been kind of looking like his old self, but yesterday, 5 innings, 7 hits, 4 runs, just those 2 strikeouts for Pablo Lopez. So a rough outing for him. Twins lose 7-3. You weren't expecting them to win every single game, but in this kind of packed AL Central, which we're not used to saying, in this kind of competitive, ultra-competitive, both division race and wildcard race, every game matters. So losing that one with Pablo Lopez on the mound hurts to a certain degree. Only lose half a game on Cleveland. That is the second piece of this. Cleveland rained out on Tuesday. So that presents an interesting kind of schedule for the Guardians heading into the rest of this week. The Guardians are now slated to play a doubleheader today. Today's Wednesday. Doubleheader today against the Diamondbacks. Then they'll have an off day tomorrow. Then they will start a 4-game series here against the Twins with a doubleheader on Friday. So back-to-back doubleheaders with an off day in between. That will test their pitching depth all around, both starting and relief pitchers. Got to imagine that could mess with their Sunday starter if you kind of look at how things line up, things like that against the Twins. And so that is an interesting facet. Twins are 4 back of Cleveland now in the AL Central race. And again, those 4 games against Cleveland this weekend. Cleveland's got 2 today against the Diamondbacks, Twins against the Cubs today again at Wrigley Field. The biggest news in the division on Tuesday is that the White Sox gained a game on the Twins and a half game on Cleveland, finally won a game after 21 consecutive losses. They are now just 41 games back of Cleveland. If they're going to make a move, 41 games back of Cleveland, 37 games behind the Twins. Their season record now sitting at 28-88. Could be the start of a big move. Although, as I think as Royce and I talked about earlier this week, even at this point, if they won the rest of their games this season, they would finish 74-88. And I think someone mentioned too that even if you took out their longest losing streaks of the season, their big 14-gamer and 21-gamer, they would still be 25 games under 500. So not a successful year for the White Sox, but finally getting back into the win column. And of course, I'm joking about how far back they are. They're so far back. Being 41 games out in early August cannot be a good feeling. That is the very definition of playing out the string. Nothing much to play for except for pride and hoping that next year will be better. But the White Sox do get into the win column, beat Oakland, so they at least don't have that hanging over their heads. Now, the final Twins thing I wanted to mention, a listener sent this to me. The Twins are surveying their season ticket holders and asking about their TV viewing habits for next year. They sent this message to season ticket holders, I believe, this week. It said, if available, at a cost of approximately $20 per month or $120 per season, how likely are you to subscribe to a direct-to-consumer streaming platform carrying Twins baseball? Now, it explains, well, I know this, and a lot of you know this, but this is still a little bit of a confusing realm for people to be in if they're just interested in if they've been getting these games traditionally through cable or satellite all these years. It said, a direct-to-consumer streaming option would allow you to watch Twins games without blackouts on a specific streaming app while not requiring a subscription to a cable or satellite provider. And it gives you some options here: highly likely, somewhat likely, neither likely nor unlikely, somewhat unlikely, or not likely at all. So interesting there that they're asking people that. Now, not surprising. I think they've wanted to get into this space for a while and haven't been able to, based on the choices they've made and what they've been presented by Major League Baseball and by their partner right now, Diamond Sports, on Bally Sports North. But does show you that next year they are already thinking about their TV plans for next year. And this year has been somewhere between a struggle and disaster, right? They didn't have streaming rights this year. They didn't have the direct-to-consumer rights. That was not negotiated as part of what they were able to get for 2024. And they went through the dueling mess of the Comcast shutdown that lasted 3 months. They've just been back on Comcast for about a week. And yes, as we've written about and talked about, at that higher pricing tier that has alienated a lot of fans too. So a tough year for the Twins on TV, to make it an understatement. But looking ahead to 2025, already kind of surveying their core audience, their core constituency, the season ticket holders, about how would you watch this team? Do you want the option? How likely are you to pay $20 a month to have the option of watching the Twins without having to subscribe to cable or satellite? Now, from my personal perspective, well, A, I think they need to have this as an option. B, this is something I would be very interested in. I've done this with the Wild and Twins, gotten the Bally Sports North app for a season or two. If I didn't want to have cable at that time, or didn't want to have a streaming service at that time, or the one I had didn't have it, it's pretty nice. You can take it with you. You can watch it. You can kind of like drop it, pick it back up, things like that. $20 a month was what I was paying for access to Wild and Wolves during that season when I had it during those kind of winter months, and it was fine. The app was a little bit shaky from time to time, but this isn't so much about the performance of the app. It's about the opportunity. And again, we don't know exactly what path this would look like, right? Is this potential negotiation for having these through Bally Sports North? Is this if they drop Diamond Sports altogether, or Diamond Sports goes away if they don't make it out of bankruptcy, and the Twins sign on with MLB to distribute their games and to produce their games, and they have this standalone option? That seems more likely to me for 2025. Feels more likely as the experience they've had this year goes and kind of what they're planning for goes. But that remains to be seen. But the fact that they're already surveying people in early August about what their plans might be more than 6 months from now, kind of understanding that they need to get into this space, I found that interesting. Thanks a lot to the listener for passing that along, and we will see where that all winds up going forward. Let's bring in Star Tribune intern, summer sports intern Cassidy Hettesheimer right now. Cassidy, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for joining me today. You first time guest. Yes. Maybe tell the good folks a little bit about yourself before we talk a little bit of Olympics and other stuff that you've been up to this summer.
Yeah. So my name's Cassidy. As introduced, I graduated from the University of Georgia in May. I'm from 45 minutes, an hour northeast of Atlanta, depending on how good of traffic day it is. But yeah, so I grew up around Georgia, went to school there, loved it, loved the sports media program, everything. And I came up here after graduation, and I've been interning this summer. It's been a really cool experience, just getting to chip in with a bunch of different stuff. And yeah, really, really enjoyed being a part of the sports crew here.
A lot of listeners know this because I've talked about it periodically, but I grew up a huge Atlanta Braves fan because of the Superstation back then, TBS.
Yes.
So, what is one of the greatest sports memories here, which is the '91 World Series, is one of my greatest moments of pain. That's probably before your time, but were you a big Atlanta sports fan growing up, or Georgia fan?
Okay, so I'm gonna be totally honest, and like
Yeah.
maybe this is a fair weather fan
Okay.
moment of me, but I don't think the Falcons fandom was ever the same after the Super Bowl. Like watching that live, like
Oh,
man, that
sure.
that that got my me and my family a little bit after blowing that lead to the Patriots. So, but you know, the Falcons we watched, and then it was really fun to be kind of a part of the scene when Atlanta United came into town, and they had a lot of draw attendance numbers have historically been really good. So we uh, went to I think it was conference finals maybe, and finals the year that they won the MLS Cup in 2018. And so that was a super cool like memory. Like Mercedes-Benz Stadium was all packed out, like 80,000 people. That was really, really fun. We were like way up in the nosebleeds. That was a cool experience.
That sounds like a blast. And
Yeah.
now you're getting indoctrinated into a quick tour of
Yes.
Minnesota sports. Before we talk a little bit of Olympics, which is a lot of what you've been doing lately, and you did a lot of gymnastics trials coverage as well, which was tons of fun. What have been some of the highlights of your time in Minnesota, and some of the favorite things non-Olympics version that you've gotten to cover so far?
Yeah. So, kind of coming into this internship and just kind of like what I'm interested in general in the industry is a lot of like women's sports coverage. It's something that's been really important to me and like something I've wanted to be a part of, no matter kind of like where I worked or what I was doing.
Hmm.
And, it was something that like drew me to here was the, commitment and space that is made for that at the Star Tribune. And so it's been really cool. I've covered like a lot of women's soccer, like in general, like
Hmm.
before the internship. Been to a couple of National Women's Soccer League championships and written for some like soccer specific websites.
Okay.
But so it was really cool to come here and get to do some WNBA stuff with Kent Youngblood and shout out him at some of the Lynx games, just because there is the dream in Atlanta, but I was at in school when I was kind of getting into sports media in Athens, so it was a bit of a hike to get over there, and
Hmm.
so getting to be close to that and go and see some of the games and kind of see that up close and in person has been really fun, and getting to write some things to go along with the coverage that has already been here. So that's been super fun, and definitely a highlight for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great sports market, but it's a great women's sports market just in general. I mean, the Lynx, their success and their fan base speaks for itself. The four championships in the kind of the dynasty era, but they're very good again this year. I haven't
Yes.
talked about them as much lately just because they're on a month-long break right now. But they're in the midst of another season where they're top four. The Aurora had another successful season. I mean, we were going to see, hopefully see another level of women's soccer here at some
Yeah.
point. I mean, it seems like it's
Yeah.
kind of on the horizon at the very least. And then PWHL Minnesota with all their drama, they were a great story too. So definitely a lot to like in that regard. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's been a ton of great stuff. Have you noticed anything about the city itself that you want to shout out or that you want to talk about?
Oh, just like lifestyle wise, or like
Yes.
as well. Someone I know this weekend was maybe not quite the best example, but as someone from Georgia, I've been loving this weather. Like today, like 70s and crisp is not something you would ever get in a
No,
Georgia summer.
it's fantastic. It's amazing.
um,
Yeah, like my kids had like a
and
big outdoor
yeah,
craft fair today for like 2 hours, and it
yeah,
was like just
yeah.
visiting them at it. It was like, this is amazing. That's great.
Yeah. So that's something that definitely I appreciate. And I know that it's not year round. And I have
No.
tempered expectations. But for the time being, it's been very wonderful. And then I love I really enjoyed, just like being down by like the river and the lakes, like the access to running trails. I love running and walking and stuff outside. And so that's been super, super pretty, and I've really enjoyed that as like a part of kind of the layout and proximity of things I'm close to. So those have both been super fun. I've really enjoyed kind of taking advantage of that this summer.
I just realized that as we're recording, I'm making you like miss the end of one of the most amazing Olympic games. Am I not? I'm sorry. I didn't realize that was finishing up right now.
It's probably for the best. Like, I don't know if my stress level, I have it kind of propped up over here. So.
I do too now. It's so, I mean, as we're recording, the U.S. is up 1-0 against Germany, and it's in extra time. Got to be getting pretty close to the end in 117th minute. So I'll provide updates at the end of this interview to make sure we got that. But that's, I mean, my apologies. We could have pushed this back a little ways. I mean, we didn't know it was going to go extra time either. So we could have, if they would have wrapped it up in a tidy 90 minutes, we wouldn't have had this problem.
They just blew it.
Oh no! Did I jinx them?
I see him. No. Sorry, blew it dead, like the whistle.
Oh no! I was like, what? No.
No, I realize now that that was a weird phrasing, but
that's
blew
fine.
It dead. Yeah.
They blew it dead. Okay, so that's it. 1-0 final.
Yes, 1-0 final.
Okay, great. So they are through to the, where are we at now?
To the final.
They're in the final. That's right. This was the semis.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm getting confused now because we got all these sports we're tracking. A bunch of men's basketball games today. The women play Wednesday, right?
I believe so.
They're through to the quarterfinals as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, both of those teams expected to win gold again, but a lot, great Minnesota connections there. Obviously, Anthony Edwards for the men's team, Nafisa Collier and Cheryl Reeve for the U.S. women's team, but also players, participating for other countries as well. A lot of Wolves players, a lot of Lynx players. So we've got a lot of Minnesotans here. We love our Minnesota angles. Have you figured that piece out, that we are very provincial here?
Yes, I just online this morning with the VP news, like seeing everyone react, and I saw I think a tweet that was like, we're reaching levels of local angle that have never been reached before. Well,
not in the social media era. Like, we've had a lot of, I think I read that 3 of the last 12.
Yes.
If Walz is elected, if they win in November, 3 of the last 12 VPs will be from Minnesota. But it's not quite the same when it's this kind of garden hose, fire hose news cycle that we're in. To get to Paris, the gymnasts had to go through Minneapolis. What was that experience covering that like, and kind of what are your thoughts about how things have transpired, or already did transpire, I guess? Now the Olympics, Olympic gymnastics is basically done, but how that all played out.
I mean, that was one of the things, like, coming into the summer that I was super excited to hopefully get to cover, and so I was super pumped to get to help out with that, alongside several other people on staff, and getting to just see, obviously there's some legendary athletes, and I feel like kind of in the sports media space, like, even at a, obviously I'm just a couple years into my, career in that. And so, but getting to, meet some people that, like, my friends and family are like, oh, you get to, talk to this person in the mix zone,
right.
Or, whoa, but I'm kind of like, yeah, it's just part of the job. Like, not really, but, like, I don't know, these gymnasts is such a high profile. Obviously Simone Biles, Sydney Lee, like that was just to kind of be like, wow, they're here, like, doing this, pretty close by. It was kind of a moment that I don't feel like I maybe have as much anymore within sports, like within the work part of sports. And so, so that was super kind of just like one of those moments where I was like, wow, like, I don't feel like this every time I, go to an event or go to cover something. And just getting to, kind of get to experience that hype and see people, appreciate the gymnastics and the expertise and level that these gymnasts brought was just really exciting. And I know it's kind of one of the marquee, like, Olympic events, I guess, that people watch on a 4-year cycle. And so for that to be, here in Minneapolis was just super cool.
I love to hear that you were excited for that. Like, I still get excited for big events, but, like, even in this business long enough, like, there's a difference between, like, how I approached an interview with like someone who was legendary when I was 23 and first starting out versus now that I'm, 47 and have done a few of those. And it's just like, it's easy to get like cynical in this business. I don't think I'm the foremost cynic. Like I think we probably have, sports journalism is definitely full of bigger cynics than me, but it's fun to hear you talk about how exciting it is because it is exciting. Like these are, we're reporting stories and stuff like that. But like when you take a step back, you're like, that's Simone Biles right over there. Like that's cool. That's very cool.
It was funny to see the whole reaction online to Pommel Horse guy.
Pommel Horse guy,
because we were sitting there, doing the math
at the trials.
With the trials, and kind of the situation of like how math based the men's team selection was versus the women's, which was a little more subjective. I mean, obviously, they're still doing math to calculate like highest possible scores, but there were certain ways for them to go, oh, maybe this person was injured at this meet or wasn't up to their best, and so we're still going to put them on the team because we know, Paris with the men's is very much like we're going to look at their scores from the U.S. championships and the trials and combine them, and like the way it shakes out in our formula is like who we're going to take, and and that's how like the local gymnast Shane Wiskus, he was in third overall in the standings, but an all around at the trials, but the way the match shook out was just his strengths on different events weren't exactly what the team needed in order to score, have its highest potential score. And so that's kind of why, you have a specialist like Steven Nidorosik. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. I've seen his name so many times in print.
Right. Yeah, right.
But so it was funny, to talk to Steven and kind of, hear him talk about, the experience and, his cat and like everything. And now that stuff's blowing up on Twitter. And
he became this thing. He's like sitting there with his eyes closed. And, like very chill, very zen before he goes and kind of clinches the team bronze medal. He won a bronze in the individual pommel horse too, I believe, at Paris. So he was a fun story. My dad is a big gymnastics fan, so we were watching a lot of that together when he was in town, and that was a lot of fun. And the women's team, obviously, too. Like Suni Lee took home 3 medals, I believe, including the team gold that they didn't win last time around. And then Simone Biles. I mean, what can you say? How many routines did she have to do at these Olympics? Like 17, something like that. It's just a ton.
Because she competes in everything but bars. Yeah, everything but bars final, I believe, or not bars. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yes.
So a lot. Let's just say a lot. And like to come back from where she was a few years ago to be able to, and have what seemed like at least a moderate injury, physical injury crop up early on in the Olympics. I mean, that was just an incredible story. The gymnastics, and more than just the gymnastics, the vibe at these Olympics have been really good. Maybe that's overstating it sometimes, or like we pay too much attention to that, but like I think NBC's done a great job. It's just been a fun Olympics in a lot of ways to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's been like last Olympics, obviously, I guess was odd with COVID and everything, and in terms of fans and family and everything, getting to get out there. And so, yeah, I mean, I know the couple people that I was able to speak to, for previews and profiles and stuff ahead of it kind of were saying like, yeah, I might be going back to an Olympics, but it'll be different because it'll be, just the context surrounding it will be different. So yeah, I think just maybe as much for the athletes as well, it might feel different, but that's me putting words in their mouth, I guess.
No, I think that's probably true. And it's, as a viewer too, it's weird. Like in some ways, even the time change going this way versus, last time around was like a 12 hours the other way. Like when you can watch it live, but then watch the highlights, then you kind of like seeing people like, the champions step out onto the Parisian streets and into these little restaurants that are by the Olympic Village. It's just like, it's felt, Paris is such an amazing city too, but it's felt like a very, this like aside from the problems they had at the triathlon, this has been like probably the ideal kind of place to hold these particular Olympics. I think that's been tons of fun. One last thing on the Olympics before we go. What are we watching for the rest of the time? I feel like a lot of the Minnesotans, like the high profile Minnesotans, have already competed. You had Suni Lee, Reagan Smith, Elise Willoughby competed. We kind of had a lot of our big Minnesotans. What's left for both the Olympics and for any of the local angles that we're tracking?
Well, I know for me personally, I'll be catching the end of the women's soccer tournament. So,
Yep.
like we just said, the U.S. just got through past Germany, 1-0. And the other semifinal, Brazil versus Spain, will take place at 2 locally this afternoon. And so that's just a couple minutes after we're recording this now. And so I think that'll be a good matchup. Either team that comes through, for if Spain goes through, it'll be the U.S. facing off against the reigning world champions from last year's Women's World Cup. And so obviously with all the talk surrounding the U.S. of, getting back to the form with their new coach, Matt Hayes, and kind of seeing like what the ceiling is for them, getting to face, just a year after that exit from the Women's World Cup that, left some to be desired by the team and fans and stuff. That'd be a really cool test. And then if Brazil makes it through, legendary player Marta will be able to take the field for her last, what she said is her last major international tournament. So I think it was at the World Cup last year that she kind of said, like, this will be my last World Cup. This will be my last Olympics. And then, so for, her to potentially go out with the gold medal, she got a red card in their, what was it? I guess it would have been quarter or last group stage game. So she missed their last game. Is missing this one and will be back for the final or either the bronze medal match, whichever they're playing in. So I think for them to potentially medal, like there's a lot of good storylines kind of going around. So I think whatever the setup, matchup, and result of that game is will be one to watch. And I think the track and field, that's kind of the last stretch of this Olympics has been really exciting to watch. There's something every day. So I think those are two big things I'll be keeping my eye on.
Yeah, the men's 100 meters was ridiculous. That was Lyles he talked the talk and he backed it up. I don't know if he's always the most popular guy with his even with his own Team USA folks, but he is that was a legendary race and a legendary finish.
A wild finish. That would be like to see that person or just to watch it from far away. That's wild.
Well, Cassidy, appreciate getting a chance to chat with you, get to know you a little bit better. Hope you get a chance to enjoy the Twin Cities even more now. And we'll talk to you down the road, okay?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Royal Credit Union's smart checking accounts offer no monthly fees and no minimum balance. Enjoy financial freedom when you open your Royal Credit Union smart checking account online at rcu.org/go-checking. Insured by NCUA.
Thanks again to Cassidy for joining me on today's show. As you probably know, or maybe didn't know, Brazil did end up beating Spain 4-2 in that other women's soccer semifinal. So indeed, it will be the U.S. versus Brazil for the women's soccer gold medal at the Olympics here coming up. Cassidy, definitely a big fan in that space. I feel bad again for scheduling the interview right in the middle of that game. Although, like I said, originally, if it hadn't taken 120 minutes, we would have been fine. But all's well that ends well. We got everything done. We even got to talk a little bit of live soccer as it was happening, even if it was being recorded. Let us finish with the cooler, a Vikings stop. The Vikings released their depth chart on Tuesday. Sort of. Everything else looked normal. Every position, you got, the starters, the twos. Here's kind of the backups at every position. Then you get to quarterback, right? You get to quarterback, and they've been very coy with this. They've been like, okay, we're not going to tell you how much J.J. McCarthy's going to play. We got to plan for the preseason game, and I get that, right? They don't want to tell the media before they tell the players. That's fine. That part of it doesn't bother me. We'll find out later this week what their plan is for the preseason game. Maybe Thursday we'll find that out, and that's fine. We don't need to know all that right now. Let the players find out first. That is only fair. But this depth chart, I don't say it bothered me, but it amused me. It kind of goes to show just how secretive all this is, how they have to have this whole thing planned out and want to make sure that there's no information given out. So Sam Darnold listed as the number one quarterback for the Vikings. Not a surprise there. Not a surprise there at all, right? But if you hoped to get information about who is the number two quarterback right now, right? Darnold's been running with the ones all mini camp, all camp. He is projected to be the starter. That's just how things are right now. But if you wanted to know who is going to be number 2 right now, you did not get that information from the Vikings, because on their unofficial depth chart, their first unofficial depth chart, at the number 2 spot, they just listed McCarthy or Mullins. McCarthy or Mullins. So we're not going to learn that for a while. They're not going to tell us who the number 2 is. I guess it's a tie for the number 2 backup spot between rookie J.J. McCarthy and last year's backup Nick Mullins. So there you have it. They're not going to tell us that before they have to. But the backup spot is interesting, though, as we talked about a couple times on the show, because if you say J.J. McCarthy is your backup quarterback, you are saying basically that he's ready to play. Because if you make him your number 2 quarterback, he is one play away from going in the game if Sam Darnold is hurt. So you have to be prepared for that. You have to be ready for him to be in a game. So if you're not ready for that, he is your number 3 quarterback. Even if you think he's your second best quarterback, if you aren't ready to have him in a game, if you don't want to expose him to that game action yet because you're worried about him not having a grasp of the offense, you're worried about him going out there when he's not ready to fully succeed yet, you're going to make him your number 3 quarterback because you don't want him one play away from being in the game. Now, Nick Mullins, you know what you're getting from him. He's going to sling the ball all around the field. He's going to throw couple touchdowns, a few interceptions. You're probably not going to win the game because that's just the nature of how he plays. He is a gunslinger without quite the arm talent of a gunslinger. He's fine. He would be fine in a pinch. You can play him. You know what he is. That's fine. But it just struck me as kind of funny, right? Just not willing to even list one of these guys as the 2 or the 3, show us the full depth chart. That will have to wait, I guess, and we'll have to wait to see who is going to play in this Saturday, the only home preseason game, Vikings against the Raiders on Saturday at US Bank Stadium. This will all sort itself out soon enough, but they're not going to tell us before they are ready or before we need to know. That will do it for me today. Efforting a show on Thursday, trying to talk to some of Tim Walz's former athletes. He was a coach at Mankato West, coached basketball and football there as an assistant back in the day. 25 years ago, almost 30 years ago, I think he started as a football assistant. Trying to talk to a few of his former athletes, working on that right now. That could be a fun show for Thursday. Want to know what kind of coach he was? What were his tactics? How was he as a motivator? So if that happens to be you or someone you know, please get a hold of me Wednesday. I'd love to talk to you sometime Wednesday for Thursday's show. But working on that right now. Probably some Twins talk on Friday's show with Bobby Nightingale Jr. ahead of that huge series against Cleveland. That will do it for me today. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Back at it again tomorrow.